We have now reached the most northerly portion of the main stem Anacostia, next to Bladensburg, Maryland. This portion of the Anacostia lies within Maryland, as the D.C.-Maryland boundary on the river is the New York Avenue Bridge. As the upper portion of the Anacostia watershed drains parts of Montgomery and Prince George's counties, the water eventually flows into the two primary tributaries to the Anacostia, the Northwest Branch and the Northeast Branch, which then in turn meet and flow into the main stem Anacostia just north of Bladensburg, Maryland. This portion of the river is still tidal and is one of the first spots on the river you can put in a boat to head downriver. Unfortunately, when you look at the river around Bladensburg, one of the first things you notice are the sandbars and how shallow this portion of the river is. To really explain this, we have to go all the way back to when this area was first being explored by European settlers. Tobacco was one of the leading industries in this area of the Anacostia when European settlers were first coming into the area. It was grown all throughout the watershed and then brought to Bladensburg to be put on ships and sent around the world. At this time, the Anacostia was said to be over 30 feet deep and could accommodate large trading ships, making Bladensburg a bustling trading port that at one point was the second largest port on the U.S. Atlantic coast. But all was not as good as it seemed, as tobacco farming takes a toll on local soil conditions, as old-growth forests with long, deep roots that held the soil in place were cut down and replaced by farmland tobacco plants with shallow root systems, increasing local erosion and depositing untold amounts of sediment into the river. Today, Bladensburg is one of the shallowest points along the river and can even measure as shallow as 1 to 2 feet deep in some places. This carelessness and lack of understanding concerning land use and its effect on the Anacostia would unfortunately continue into the future, with the whole length of the main stem suffering from sediment pollution. It was only recently, with the passage of the landmark legislation like the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, and the Endangered Species Act, that an increased focus on environmental health and longevity was made a priority, especially on the Anacostia. Bladensburg has a special place in local and U.S. history. Because of its use as a port, it's been witness to some of history's best stories. Bladensburg was the location where the British came to cross into the district and attacked the nation's capital during the War of 1812, in a battle commonly known as the Bladensburg Races, jokingly named because of the speed of the American forces' retreat back to Washington after losing the battle. Nearby Bladensburg is also a locally famous tributary, aptly named Dueling Creek. This was a site where many duel for honor took place, as dueling was illegal in the District of Columbia, and the creek was located just over the border in Maryland, thus making it legal. Currently, despite shallow water levels, Bladensburg is still a bustling center for river recreation, with Bladensburg Waterfront Park serving as a meeting point for kayakers, crew teams, bike trails, and many more recreation opportunities. Taking a trip downriver from Bladensburg, whether it be by boat or bike, is truly a magical experience, as this stretch of the river has only been lightly altered by human development, making it one of the few spots on the river where you can truly go back in time and experience the Anacostia as it might have looked in its natural, unaltered state. Don't be surprised if you see abundant wildlife along this stretch of the river, as bald eagles, ospreys, cormorants, and blue heron are just a few of the birds you can see, with untold amounts of other animals like beaver, bass, and deer patrolling in or around the water's edge. So it's here at Bladensburg that we unfortunately end our tour of the Anacostia River. We at Anacostia Riverkeeper and the District Department of Energy and Environment would like to thank you for joining us on the Anacostia and experiencing just a little bit of what makes this amazing river so important to DC. We encourage you to take our in-person boat tours in the summer, spring, and fall, where you can really gain a nice and unique firsthand experience of the Anacostia. Really see the birds flying overhead, experience the water on our boat as it flows by and we move upstream. And we hope you've learned a little bit about Anacostia history, DC culture, and some of the things that this river has done to help shape our home in DC, and some of the things that have really made it our river, DC's river. Its path from beautiful environmental ecosystem to one marred by industry and development to now one on the path to resurgence and beauty. So we'd like to thank you again from the bottom of our hearts for coming out to our river and your river, for truly experiencing the Anacostia.